We have all felt it. That pounding of the heart, the sweaty palms, the hyperventilation, the butterflies in the stomach. We all know it. It's fear. Fear stalks leaders. It is an ever-present shadow, an albatross hovering low over our heads. It's unsettling and sometimes even terrifying. There is no escaping fear in the course of leadership. It is omnipresent. Fear must be conquered. There is no way but through it. There is no choice but forward. This episode of the Power Panel Podcast Reflections is in response to a heartfelt email from one of our listeners. She writes, "Dear Ambassador Omamo, I just wanted to say thank you for your voice, for the stories you bring to light, and for the quiet strength that runs through every episode. Listening to the guests you featured, women like Boholo Kenowendo, Tatu Gatere, and others, has been incredibly inspiring. Hearing their journeys reminded me that leadership isn't just about having answers. It's about showing up with purpose, even when things feel uncertain. But if I'm honest, I still struggle with fear. Fear that I'm not good enough, fear that I'll fail, or that I'll never quite become the woman I'm trying to grow into. So I wanted to ask you, how have you personally dealt with fear as a leader?" Stacy, Adongo, Nairobi. How can we override our fears? There are no complete answers, but here are some insights from my own leadership experience and from the riveting conversations I have had with guests on this podcast. What are our fears? African women leaders often fear discrimination and exclusion, media scrutiny and cyberbullying, opposition and rejection, personal safety threats, and the burden of leadership itself. It was a really public attack.
Friends, colleagues, comrades called me a sellout.
People started describing that I was not a woman, I was behaving like a man.
There is such a reputational risk.
I am constantly harassed, threatened. I have even been summoned by the police at some point. It's about online bullying.
My competency was equated to me being someone's girlfriend.
And then I had the imposter syndrome. I've cried a lot of tears.
There was an agenda to bring me down, and they did.
Throughout my leadership journey in the public sector, both as a diplomat and a senior cabinet minister, my greatest fear was public odium, particularly bringing my family to shame. I was never really able to control that fear. And thinking back, it influenced a lot of my decisions and behavior as a leader, both negatively and positively. The sources of fear. I have learned over the years that to subdue your fears, you must first understand what you're actually afraid of in specific terms. Look within first. Interrogate yourself. What has triggered your sense of danger? What has triggered this need to protect yourself? Locate the source of your fear and consider how foreboding it really is on a scale of 1 to 10. For example, is it just an innocuous phobia? Or is it an expression of your lack of confidence? Or is it a serious existential threat?
In the world of politics, there are no friendship, there's only interest.
You feel sometimes quite overwhelmed because there's so much expectation vis-a-vis the reality of what you're capable of doing.
Huge responsibility you have to be wise.
Comprehend how fear is limiting you. Is it affecting your relationships? Is it constraining your actions and compromising your performance as a leader? Are you losing your fire and verve? On the other hand, are you avoiding decisions, passing the buck, or kicking the can down the road?
The cost of staying agile, the cost of staying flexible, of embracing uncertainty That's actually been the hardest for me. It's impacted my family relationships.
The way the public takes you on when you're a minister is very, very sad.
When you allow fear to consume and control you, it can lead to procrastination, stagnation, paranoia, and malice in leadership. Worse still, fear and extreme anxiety can take a serious toll on your physical and mental health. In this event, you need to seek professional help immediately.
The cost of all the visibility is very real fatigue, very real emotional, physical exhaustion.
Pain and passion go hand in hand, and what it costs you is everything. You don't go home and switch off.
If you understand the effects of fear, you'll understand how to contend with it. Understand other people's fears. Leadership also means understanding what others are frightened of too. This requires empathy and the cultivation of a deep knowledge of human nature. The fears of your followers can also lead to collective discontent, lack of cooperation, and disengagement. You need to align your story of fear with theirs.
I learned to tell the story of me and connecting it with the story of us.
I began to speak more to people to try and understand, their fears. You don't overcome it by just ignoring it. You need to confront it. You need to be able to make a commitment that this is what we're going to do.
Leadership also requires that in circumstances of fear and anxiety, you show up, not only for yourself, but for others. You show up to make sense of the situation, to define the source of the fear. But you also show up to diffuse the impact of the fear by clearly articulating a courageous path forward. Good leaders cultivate a community of courage, demonstrate and teach courage by leading from the front.
And therefore, I decided to lead by example. That if it was going out to police stations, I would be the first person there. If it was going to court, I would be the first person there. And also giving as much support as I could as an individual to try and ensure that I protect my council, I protect my secretariat, and I take the lead as faith. Just thinking about all the other presidents that have always been at the forefront. Giving themselves, risking themselves for the purpose of just ensuring justice is done.
I am a very good supporter if I find a strong leader who needs rallying people around, because I've noted that I'm very good at rallying people around a cause.
Confront and vocalize fear. Speak that fear out loud to yourself or write it down. Confess it. There is no shame in feeling afraid. If you have a trusted mentor, family member, or professional, share it with them. Own your fear so that you can activate the courage to confront it. We allow our fears to morph, to fester, to oxidize to our detriment. Remember, fear clouds vision. Fear makes small things bigger than they are. During my leadership journey, I was always so surprised and relieved when I shared some of my fears with people I trusted. I found that they had either been through similar anxious moments or had a straightforward solution to my dilemma. There is very little that is new under the sun. Progress begins when we start facing our fears. Courage awakens when fear is faced head on.
You feel the fear is there, but the words of encouragement come from the different presidents, and they said, some of them will send me messages and just tell me, we also experienced this in this era. This happened. I was attacked, but I stood firm in my position, and the lawyers stood with me because I took the right decision. So don't be afraid to take the right decision.
Override fear with purpose. A great Black feminist and poet once said, "When I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in support of my vision, then it becomes less and less important whether I am afraid." As African women leaders, we need to be very clear about the purpose of our leadership, our values and principles, so that we can stand in strength against the fears that arise during leadership. A key element in meandering through fear is being true to yourself and trusting yourself. The first step to overcoming fear is to stir your own power.
I was not afraid, but I was very well aware of the responsibility that I had.
Maintaining my stand, not being cowed into silence, not wavering on my commitment, being the person who doesn't fear and also who won't just accept the wrong baseline.
I wasn't afraid because I've always seen myself bigger than what my community had allowed me to see or envision for myself.
Convert your fear into creativity. Fear often leads to inaction, paralysis, and feelings of powerlessness. One of the worst encounters in leadership is not knowing what to do, feeling stuck, clueless, and overwhelmed, and appearing incompetent. Yet, it is in this state of unknowing, this state of uncertainty, that new knowledge, new ideas, and the way forward can be found. Apprehension and disquiet can unlock innovation. This is one of the most positive manifestations of fear that every leader must be conscious of. You must make the choice either to remain captive to your fears or to find a way of creatively mastering them. Anxiety is a double-edged sword. Seta Maloma reiterates this and asserts that anxiety diffuses creativity, but creativity diffuses anxiety. As Her Excellency Ellen Johnson Sirleaf said, "If your dreams don't scare you, they're not good enough." In other words, fear can propel you to excellence. Once we surmount our fears, there is freedom to create new solutions. Practice resistance. Test that fear. Fear never really disappears. New challenges and sources of trepidation surface every day. We simply cannot control all the variables. We have to learn how to carry on, fear notwithstanding. You may not be able to control the waves, but you can learn how to surf. The management of fear is a skill. You have to work on it and consciously test the hold of fear over you through your ability to resist. You must build a resilient mind and assemble your armor. Consciously register your triumphs and failures over fear. Assess your methods and tactics. Build a bank of knowledge and support. Listen to your intuition. Learn how to trust yourself. Develop a spirit of courage and resilience. Feel the fear and do it anyway. You gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you really stop to look fear in the face. You are able to say to yourself, "I have lived through this horror. I can take the next thing that comes along." The only way through fear is forward. This is the Power Panel Podcast, Reflections.